Everyone, this is my watch list for Thursday, April 2nd. Remember, the market is closed tomorrow for Good Friday, so today is basically our Friday. Contracts are going to move like 0 DTE if you take Thursday cons, all right? Let's talk about what happened yesterday. Remember on the pre-market webinar with Brett, I said market is gapping into supply. Let's not, assume this is a trend reversal. No, I said macros are still bearish. We're still in a downtrend since February. Let's not, assume that we're just going to rip. And that's pretty much what happened, right? We did have a little bit of strength off the open. However, once we hit this supply area, 659 on SPY, we got slammed, and now we're gapping down 1.5% off of that. Same thing with the Qs, right? Qs, I said 588. Once we hit that supply on the Qs, we got slammed, and now Qs are gapping down nearly 2%, okay? So this is exactly what I said would happen, right? With the macros still being bearish, we're gapping into supply, this is a dead cat bounce, right? And this is what happened, right? So now, what's going on today? What's the move today, right? SPY, I will say this. The same way yesterday, I didn't want to rush into saying, oh, the trend is reversing. Today, SPY is still above the 643, 642 demand. So I also don't want to rush into just buying puts off the open, right? As long as we're above the 643, 642, we can actually look for longs into this area because we may see a bit of a reaction. We got the supply reject off 659, but that doesn't mean we won't bounce off of this previous demand at 642, all right? So I would actually be interested in off the open, do we test this 643, 642 area? And are we showing signs of a hold? If we do show signs of a hold, we can look for longs, all right? At least for a pop back into like 650, which was that level from last Tuesday, all right? Another thing that we can watch for is shorts into previous session lows, right? So if we go pop back into 653, 654, which is that area that we held all day yesterday, right? Even into the afternoon, you see that 654 held. If we get a pop back into there, we can look for shorts as well into that 653, 654, all right? QQQ is actually now below that pivot from Monday, so it's below the 574. We could look for potential reclaims of the 574 or this high where before the news came out, right? This was the supply before the news came out, that 56850 area from Tuesday, right? If we get back into that 56850, we can look for holds there, all right? And this may be the fib. Let's check from 556 to the supply at 588. It is. Look, that actually lines up perfectly as well with the 61.8 fib. It's at 568.2, right? Very close to that supply or that demand, sorry. So if the Qs get back into the 56850 area, I actually do like longs. It matches with the fib level and it matches with the Tuesday highs before the news came out, the Monday highs, all right, when we failed pre-market, okay? So that's an interesting area for me on the Qs. If we get back into this 56850, I actually do like longs, even though, again, market macro is still in a trending bearish, right? We're trending bearish, but, we did bounce strong, and now we're selling. It's already down 2%. I think we will get some buyers come back in as we're testing some of these previous areas. These once supply levels now turn demand levels, all right? So I do like the 56850 area for a bounce on the Qs, and I do like the 642, 643 area for a bounce on SPY, all right? That's what I'm watching in SPY and Qs. For rejects on the Qs, it would be the previous day low, right? So whatever this is, 580.50, right? That's where we can look for shorts on the Qs if we get a pop. But I would honestly rather take the bounce. We're already down 2%. I would rather take the bounce if we get into 568.50, okay? All right, let's look at some individuals. So Apple is actually on my watch again today. I caught a scalp on this yesterday. Nothing crazy. We caught it off the open. I got in right here at 935 once it reclaimed 255, and it made a push into 255.80. It made like an 80-cent move. Contracts moved like 12, 15%, and then I had to sell my runners a little bit in the red, like 2% in the red, once this candle failed back below 255. But this was still the strongest, one of the strongest charts. So, and pre-market, it's only down 1%. I actually still like this, guys. Eventually, it's going to break and it's going to rip, right? We just need to get back above 255. If we reclaim 255 and actually show momentum, shows some strength, then this is going to make a move into 257, and then above 257 goes to 260. Right? So it's still something on my watch. We just need the confirmation. Maybe it happens today. Maybe it happens next week. Okay. AMD was great. I talked about the 209. Right. I talked about the reclaim at 209. Rav wound up taking this, but that 209 reclaim made a really nice move all the way to 214, right? A $5 move over the 209, and it bounced off it again in the afternoon. But we're back below 209, so this is a bearish chart again, right? We can actually look for failures at the 209. If we get a pop to end of 209, fail, we can look for shorts at that 209. Since we broke above and then failed it, you know, that's a bearish reversal. It's down 3%, so we can look for shorts into 209. Amazon, I'm not watching anything. It failed the 213 supply again. 1, 2, 3, 4 times we failed that same supply. If we eventually get a reclaim at 213, it is a long. But for now, this is in kind of a limbo territory. We're back below 207. You know, this, in my opinion, will likely sell back into the low 200s, maybe even the 190s, as long as we stay below 207 at this point. All right. I'm not really watching anything on Amazon though. Google, Meta, Microsoft, not watching anything. Netflix, we took this trade on Tuesday. This was a beautiful, beautiful trade. Above 94 into 96. And yesterday it failed 96. So let's see. Yeah, even off the open, the 5-minute chart, right, immediately failed to 96. That is still a big level. Let's look at the 1 hour. 1 hour, you see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 failures at 96. This is a relatively strong name, kind of like Apple. Even though yesterday closed red, that's not really what I'm looking at. I'm looking at, is it holding levels of demand, and how much is it down compared to other names? Like AMD's down 3% pre-market, Netflix is only down 0.8%, right? So Netflix is relatively strong. It's still above the 94. You know, do we reclaim 96 today? We reclaim 96. I'll be interested in longs again on Netflix. All right. NVIDIA failed supply, right? We popped, we failed supply, and now we're back at that holy mecca 170 level, okay? 170 is huge. Now, this would be interesting. Does this turn into an inverse head and shoulder, right? You can see, let's say this is shoulder, let's say this is head, let's say this is shoulder. If this is the case, then NVIDIA can rip. We don't know if that's going to happen yet or not. We have to watch and see. Does NVIDIA hold 170 today? I would be really interested in if it got some sort of, let's say this candle, a 5-minute candle, comes down, comes to like 169 and then reclaims 170 in the same candle, or the next candle reclaims 170. I would be the most interested in longs if that happens. Like trap the liquidity, trap some sellers below 170 and then reclaim above 170, and then we can look for longs, because I do like this little inverse head and shoulders if it does play out, right? But 170 is the level. If it holds, we can look for longs. If it fails and starts selling, we can look for shorts, all right? PLTR, not watching anything. Tesla, it failed supply, right? We talked about this yesterday on pre-market, the 384, failed. And now it's kind of in a limbo area. I'm just not interested in trading this. All right, my main watches for today, SPY, QQQ for demand bounces. I'm watching that Apple, the same reclaim. Look, this is also a relatively strong name. It's not down much pre-market. We get over that 255, it's going to go. AMD, I like for shorts into 209. It's already down 3%. Netflix and NVIDIA. Those are my watches for today. Thanks for joining, guys. Have a good last day of the week. Long 3-day weekend coming. And I'll see you all on live.